Support for this program is provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and from viewers like you.
Hello and welcome to Louisiana Public Square. I'm Barry Irwin, president of the Council for a Better Louisiana. As an active leader in Louisiana's efforts to reform education, Cable realizes that investing in early childhood education can be one of the most efficient uses of the state's financial resources. Leaders around the state are also beginning to approach early child care and education as workforce and economic development issues. The Louisiana Association of Business and Industry has made early education one of its top priorities this year. New Orleans just budgeted $750,000 to accommodate more children in the city's early childhood education network. And here in Louisiana's capital, Mayor-President Sharon Weston Broome is expanding help to parents through her Cradle to K initiative. Tonight, we'll explore the many ways that early education matters and how it can be better funded. First, an overview.
When Shawanda Jefferson began working full-time in her chosen field last year, things seemed to be looking up until she discovered she no longer qualified for child care assistance for one of her two young sons. Making a salary of just under $35,000, Jefferson saw a dramatic increase in what she paid for child care.
I was paying $75 a week to send one of my children to school. Without childcare, I'm paying $150 a week, so my price is literally doubled.
Her oldest son, Quadir, spends his day with a handful of other children in a private home under the care of a mother who also lost her childcare assistance.
I just so happened to be blessed to meet someone that was going through the same thing I was going through, and she decided I'll watch kids and make that my living.
While Quadir enjoys his time at the home, Jefferson wishes he was receiving the attention and education provided to her other son.
My youngest son, Raquan, is in a licensed facility, and it's more or less, it's a regular school. He gets to commune with younger kids as well as older kids.
Jefferson's child care issues are not unique. The average annual cost of infant care in Louisiana is nearly $5,800. The Alice report by the United Way shows that high-quality child care is unaffordable for 42% of Louisiana's working poor. The Child Care Assistance Program, or CCAP, which Jefferson relied on, is the only state-administered fund to cover child care and education expenses. It's been cut by almost 70% over the last 8 years and now serves far fewer than the 40,000 students it once did.
Presently, right now, we have over 16,000 children that are receiving services in Type 3 centers. That means these children go to licensed child care facilities, Type 3 licensed child care facilities. And then we have about 600, or a little over 600, that are receiving services in family day homes. These children go to homes that are certified to receive child care assistance funds.
Melinda George is a child care assistance manager with Louisiana's Department of Education. In addition to the families CCAP serves, she says there are thousands more in the wings.
We have over 2,000 eligible families waiting on a wait list to come into the program, and the program is now serving more children than it can sustain. So we're naturally matriculating down before we go to the wait list.
The state recently increased the daily CCAP subsidy, but the federal funding stream will run out this year. The increase was made to cover improvements to child care centers required by Act 3 passed in 2012. The legislation created uniform educational standards, so children would exit facilities prepared for kindergarten.
The science is in. If there are not the proper stimuli on brain development, especially 0 to 3, a child can start school at kindergarten, age 5, not ready to learn, and already be behind at age 5.
Bridget Neeland is Vice President for Workforce and Education with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, or LABI. She says that Act 3 also set performance goals for publicly funded child care centers.
They have put consequences in place for non-performance, and that's good. They are receiving tax dollars, so accountability for tax dollars is something we believe in.
In November, the Education Department launched the state's first ever online database of Louisiana's early childhood centers. The Louisiana School Finder tool rates the facility's performance and helps parents decide on the right school for their child. Access to quality and affordable early child care services affects the state's labor force, Neeland says, particularly women.
Women generally have part-time jobs that are about twice the number of men, and they often cite the fact that they're not full-time workers because of the high cost of child care. So if they had reliable, affordable child care, they probably could be able to enter the full-time workforce as well.
Losing Ground, a recent statewide survey conducted by LSU's Public Policy Research Lab, delved deeply into child care issues and workforce productivity. Dr. Belinda Creel Davis is director of the lab and a co-author of the first-of-its-kind study.
Over 40% of our respondents indicated that they had missed work due to problems related to child care. Another 1 in 6 reported they had actually quit their job because of problems related to child care. And these problems result in enormous economic consequences for our employers. So employee retention and absences result in an estimated $800 million impact for Louisiana's businesses. It also results in an $80 million loss in tax revenue to the state. And as a whole, when you look at all of these problems combined, these child care problems result in a $1 billion loss to Louisiana's economy.
Businesses offer parents flexible savings accounts where employees can deduct child care expenses from their federal taxes. The state's school readiness tax credit for parents, center operators, and teachers was increased slightly last session. But experts say funding needs to be consistent through options such as dedicating specific revenue sources to early childhood, using federal temporary assistance to needy families block grant funds, or possibly allowing pre-K facilities to receive MFP money. Neeland says investing in early child care is a challenge, particularly in our current budget situation, but it yields the fastest positive statewide results. Jefferson just hopes whatever happens is not too late for her 2 boys.
I have lemons and I'm making lemonade out of it, and I'm hoping it doesn't affect them in the long run because of it.
Joining us to explore Louisiana's early childhood education system is our studio audience. It includes parents, child care providers, and representatives from business and community organizations that share a common interest in this topic. And thanks everyone for being here tonight. On its website, LPB has posted a condensed version of the Losing Ground voter survey conducted by LSU's Public Policy Research Lab. Of the 173 respondents, we learned the following. Asked their thoughts on publicly funded preschool for children under the age of 4, 23% feel it should not be part of the public education system. 7% feel that it should only be offered to at-risk children, but 70% feel that publicly funded preschool programs should be provided to all children under the age of 4. Of the 112 respondents who have children in daycare, 37% pay more than $600 per month. 27% pay between $400 and $500, 19% between $500 and $600, and 17% under $400. Only 12% of respondents receive governmental child care assistance, and just 6% receive any employer assistance for child care expenses. Asked if a parent had ever dropped from full-time down to part-time work due to child care issues, 22% of respondents said yes, 78% said no. But when asked if a parent or immediate family member had to miss work or school due to child care issues, 72% of respondents said yes, and 28% said no. So let's start there. What issues do parents have with child care, and what do our child care providers and other audience members have to say on that subject? And I thought we might start with a parent. Teresa is in kind of a unique situation. You're a parent of 2 children, twins. in childcare. You work in a childcare center facility, and you're also on the waiting list for the Child Care Assistance Program that we heard discussed in the piece prior. So you have many experiences there, but from a parent, what experience do you have right now with kids in this program, but also waiting for assistance?
It's tough. I mean, I have 2 kids, and annually it's $13,000 for both of them to attend where I work at. And overall, me and my husband clear annually $25,000. So at least half of our income has got to go to childcare. Like, if it wouldn't be for my director working with me, then we wouldn't be able to send our kids there. I wouldn't have a job. And honestly, I don't think the kids in my class would have a good situation because I wouldn't be their teacher.
Do you see that with other families in your situation?
I do. Like, we have a lot of families that are on CCAP, and we have 11 families that are on the waiting list, and they're the same as me. Like, it's tough. They have to miss work. They have to come and get them because they can't afford it. So, you know, like, sorry, I'm tongue-tied.
No, I understand it's a very difficult issue. Danielle, you're a parent as well. What kind of experience have you had with the child care system?
Well, I've been blessed to not be in a situation where working. I'm a stay-at-home mom. But before he started Head Start, I had to stay home because people wanted, why you didn't put him in daycare? I'm like, because it costs. I don't have that extra income. So when they told me about Head Start and I qualified, I ran for that, because I want him to get a good education. So that's what I did. I ran for anything I can get, I go and get it. Plus, he's a mild delayed child, and I was first scared about putting him in a regular school, but then when he started it and liked it, he enjoyed it. So, I'm just sad about other parents, but I was just blessed not to have to go through that.
But it's a real issue. Have you noticed a difference with him being able to be in the Head Start program?
Yes, very well.
Well, you mentioned you had a child that had a mild delay. Trevor, you have a child with autism. What is that experience like for a parent dealing with a child with a special need with child care?
Well, I can say probably, all the problems are compounded even more. My child was diagnosed, Blake was diagnosed when he was 2 years old, and he's 14 now. And like most parents out there, both my wife and I had to work. We both had jobs. And having to provide child care, therapy, et cetera, for my son, my wife was forced to go to part-time. And that was just to make sure he was receiving the care that he needed and the therapy that he needed. And obviously special needs children, that's a whole other category of needs that they are required to have. But I hope that the state, and this is for all children, will come up with some solution, because I know for a fact those formative years, 1 through 4, are critical, especially critical for children with autism. And I can't think of a more honorable, use of public resources than what we're talking about today. So my hope is that, something will get done downtown to fund these programs, to find the money somehow, because it's absolutely necessary.
One thing that kind of comes across, and I just kind of open this up to everybody right now, childcare is a very real need for families, and we just heard it mentioned from 3 families right here. It's not been on the front burner of state politics and even national politics the way one might think it might be. What do you think are the lessons there, or what can we do to try and kind of elevate that issue? Anybody have any thoughts on that? William.
The research is very clear on how important child care is, both in the short term for unlocking the potential of the parents to get them into the workforce, and then in the long term to prepare children for kindergarten so they can do better through school and they do better as adults if they're in quality early childhood education. But the people most affected by it aren't necessarily in a position to put political pressure on the legislature. You're talking about working parents with small children. And so I think it really is on other institutions and organizations like LeBee or Chambers of Commerce or city governments to organize and really push for this.
And you're with the city of New Orleans?
Baton Rouge.
With Baton Rouge, I'm sorry, and have started some of these, the Cradle to K initiative to try and help in some of that area.
Right, and Cradle to K is a bit different because we're talking about expanding seats, which is incredibly necessary.
Sure.
We need more people to have access to early childhood, but it does cost, and that money isn't there right now. And we believe that just because we don't have the money doesn't mean we shouldn't do something. So Cradle to K is really an effort to do what we can with the resources that we have. We work to bring together different community organizations that are already present in the community to see how we can leverage resources and talent that's already there to help provide support and community for parents across Baton Rouge.
Sarah, let me ask you, you work with United Ways around the state. The Alice report was referenced in the piece that we saw before.
Mm-hmm.
How common is this issue for the families that you work with and that you have studied in that particular report, particularly those in the low income levels?
It's very common, and unfortunately the research-based data point to very large numbers. We heard earlier in the show that 42% of Louisiana working households struggle to meet a basic survival budget. And that survival budget is inclusive of the expense of child care, which is the largest expense for a family with preschool-age children. It surpasses housing, utilities, taxes, transportation. And so for a family that is struggling to earn a wage to meet these expenses, they make hard choices every day. And we hope that they don't have to compromise on childcare quality or choice, but in order to make it all work, to have food, to have health care, to have transportation, they are making very tough choices. And just the numbers that 42% of our Louisiana families face these hard choices gives us the evidence that at every corner there is a family worrying about how they're going to give their child quality early care and education experiences.
Sure. Cindy, you work with a lot of the child care providers around the state and deal with their issues at the legislature and elsewhere. What are the issues that they're dealing with on this side of things? Obviously, there are a lot of challenges on the provider side as well.
Absolutely. Act 3 really raised the bar on quality. It is a measure that put in performance standards for taking children that receive public funds, child care assistance. So there's been a lot of work that our child care providers have done to prepare themselves to meet that the raised bar. And there's coordinated enrollment. So there's been a major shift in child care for us. We moved from the Department of Children and Family Services to the Department of Education, which is a really great fit for us because when in the Department of Education, our folks, superintendents, school boards, educators talking about how to get children kindergarten ready. So that's critically important. So it's a big change for us, but the child care assistance is really important. So many families rely on that, and it would take about $20 million infusion of cash to fund some of that waiting list. So there's a lot of hurdles. And then we also need to strike that balance that's so critically important with workforce, because if you don't have a place that's a quality place, safe place to put your children during the day, you can't report to work. So those two issues are tied so closely together, workforce and childcare. So there's a lot of issues to get through in these coming months.
Well, a lot more to discuss on this, and we will, but that's all the time we have for this portion of our show. When we return, we'll be joined by a panel of experts as we explore early education matters. Welcome back to Louisiana Public Square. Tonight we're discussing Louisiana's early child care education system. Joining us now is our panel of experts. John White has been Louisiana's State Superintendent of Education since 2012. That year he launched Louisiana Believes, the state's plan to ensure every child is on track to college or a career. Among his accomplishments is that he has worked to unify the state's fragmented early childhood education system. Stephen Waguespack has been president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry since 2013. LABI is the largest advocacy organization in the state with more than 2,500 members. Prior to joining LABI, Stephen served as a member of the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. Melanie Bronfman is the executive director of the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, a nonprofit that is a source of data on issues related to young children in Louisiana. Bronfman co-authored the Losing Ground survey on child care issues and workforce productivity. And State Representative Steve Carter is a Republican who represents Baton Rouge. He serves on the House Education Committee, among others, and was one of the authors of Act 3 in 2012, which mandated an overhaul of the state's early education and child care system. Before we go to our audience to ask questions, I'd like to first ask each of you, from your perspective, very briefly, what are the prospects of having funding for early education, early child care education, a priority during this legislative session? I know, given the budget issues that we're all dealing with, that's a big question, but where do you see us going on that for this coming up session? John, we start with you.
Well, I think the most important thing has happened already, which is that the media is beginning to pay attention to it. We have advocates, obviously legislators beginning to pay attention to it, and it's important that we keep early childhood on the front page, take it out of the back page, and we see TOPS every day. We see other budget issues on the front page of our newspapers every day. The most important thing that can happen right now is making the case for change, keeping early childhood on the front page.
Stephen Labie has certainly taken a big step in doing that with a big conference last year and working that as a top priority. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say the awareness has really risen to a very high level for the business community. It's kind of on two fronts. I think one, from an employee solicitation point of view, when I talk to businesses around the state, it doesn't matter what industry they're in, they say, look, give me a worker who has good reading, writing, soft skills, can stay off drugs, kind of the old manners type of mannerisms we used to talk about. That's what they're looking for. And so when you start pulling on that thread, it really gets down to early education and the importance of it. Then the other piece, I think employers are saying, look, if we're not being family friendly as an employer, we can't recruit the type of people we need. And so I think employers are becoming more aware, how can we provide more flexible scheduling? How can we become more tolerant of certain needs that our parents need? And so as I hear that from employers, I think it raises their awareness on the policy front as well.
Melanie, let me ask you, you've been an advocate for child care, early education for some time. What are you sensing now compared to maybe a few years ago in terms of the awareness and also within the legislature?
I think it's very exciting, the awareness, and just having this panel tonight and having early childhood. We're in the Department of Education. It's considered early learning, and all the great work that has gone on around Act 3. I'm hopeful, but it's been a struggle in that we have worked so hard to raise standards, to do what we needed to do under Act 3, and which is very exciting, but that costs money. And since Act 3 was passed, we have actually cut the funding for early care and education. In fact, for the last 10 years, we've cut funding, as you heard earlier, substantially for early care and education across the state. So it's very difficult, but I'm hoping as we all go forward and we understand better and there's more advocacy around it, I'm hopeful. I mean, it's about our priorities as a state. It's where we choose to spend our money. And there's no greater return on investment than birth to 4. And so I'm just hoping we'll get our priorities straight.
Representative Steve Carter, you were one of the authors of Act 3. What are you hearing from your colleagues?
Well, I'm going to differ a little bit. I don't think we're spending enough time, and we need help from the audience and help from people that are viewing this to make early childhood a top priority. If you look at the state government, and obviously we have a deficit right now, as we all know, but as soon as we get better, which it's going to get better, then we need to have some priorities in this state. Obviously, if you live in Baton Rouge, you recognize the fact that we need a new bridge. You hear about that a good bit. Traffic is a problem. Higher education, they come and they lobby, and they're pretty powerful in what they're doing. We need to get a very powerful group together, cross-section, because when I'm on education, and then John Bell, the governor, was on education at one time, and you take someone like Pat Smith and myself, both of those are Democrats, I'm a Republican, all of us for early childhood. Everybody's for early childhood. And we need to help families like in here who have problems not being able to get their youngster to early childhood care and what have you. So we just need to continue to push forward, and we need to find and ensure that the governor recognizes the fact, because last year, with y'all's help, judicial reform passed because we had a coalition of people that worked together. We need the same thing with early childhood.
Well, joining us here, of course, our studio audience, and they have some questions. I wanted to start with Tony Davis, who happens to be a member of Bessie, has been involved in certainly all the education issues. You had a question. We were talking about awareness and building that awareness, and you had some thoughts along those lines in terms of a question.
Well, I guess my question along that line was, as I look at you guys, and Barry, you kind of hit this a little bit now, and you've all addressed a piece of it, but we all know that the funding is a major issue with that. And Representative, I think you really voiced this sort of the answer before my question, which is, what is the catalyst? What do we think is that critical mass that we need amongst business entities and state agencies and outside groups, third-party groups and advocacy groups, and in the legislature? What is that catalyst? What is that mass that we need that really says, we're ready to fund it now? Not just that we agree it needs to be funded, but that we're ready to make it a priority. And I don't think that it counts to make the answer when we have more money. I think that we start finding the money when we prioritize it. But I don't know if you have thoughts on kind of where do we all come together and say, all right, we get it. We all get it now. It is important. Do you have some thoughts on that line?
Well,
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great question, and that's the solution. Is what you're asking. What do we need to do this? I'm going to give you an example. I mean, back when West Feliciana, when they brought the nuclear plant in, the energy plant, they were wise enough when they taxed that Lloyd Lindsay was the superintendent then, carved a few dollars out of those tax dollars. And where did he put it? On early childhood. And where are we right now? If you look at the grades across the state, where's West Feliciana? Superintendent White, where's West Feliciana?
Top 10%.
Top 1 or 2. In my opinion, you know why? They start at birth. So how many people know that out there? That's where it started and that's how it got done. Those are the kind of things we need to spread the word on. Make sure you go down and testify in these committees and explain. Earlier we had parents who were talking about the problems that they were having. I don't know how many people recognize that we have those types of problems that are legislators in the legislature. We need to know. And so anything that you can do to come down and make the legislature aware and try to find some way to get the governor to put that as a top priority, it'll work.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would say 2 points on that. You know, funding comes from different levels. There's obviously funding from the Capitol and there's funding outside the Capitol. On the outside piece, I think what we're trying to do is raise awareness with employers that, look, there's a private sector investment that's needed here that doesn't need to flow to the Capitol. You know, there are school readiness tax credits, there are flexible savings accounts. Those are things that are used in moderation. That needs to be done, you know, more thoroughly, and we need, you know, to raise awareness on the private sector side there. On the Capitol piece, I think you've heard the word prioritization a couple of times here on this panel, and I think the challenge is, when I hear from employers, they say, look, what we're frustrated with is you go to the Capitol, the budget increases every year, but the same things are left out on the cutting room floor. And that's because while you have a $30 billion budget, there's really $3 billion that's discretionary to have this discussion in. And so the pie needs to be broadened. We need to every year to be able to go to the Capitol and say, as a state, as taxpayers, what are our priorities? Is it early ed? Is it roads? Is it higher ed? Is it a mixture of that? Most of the dollars spent today are based upon priorities of the past because they've been dedicated, obligated. So if you open up that budget more, we can have this discussion every year without having to say, where's new revenue streams coming from?
The only thing I would add, I agree with all of that. The only thing I would add is we do have one new thing this year, and that is we have a wait list for the first time. There's never been a wait list maintained by Child and Family Services or the Department of Education. And to hear a story like Teresa's creates tangible proof that we have a serious problem, and it's not some theoretical thing. It's affecting real families, real small businesses, real communities, and real children. And that is a serious, serious problem. I think we've got to start bringing those stories to light, making the fact, whether it's $20 million or not, as Sydney said, we've got 3,000 children. 3,000 children who are not doing what their parents want them to be able to do, and maybe parents who can't. And that story needs to be told.
Aaron, we talked a minute ago about some of the employer side of it and some employer concerns and the things employers are trying to do. You're kind of coming from an employer perspective yourself with Ochsner, and you had a question along some lines about what might be able to be done to help on the employer side.
Yes, and so I think that one of the solutions or the pieces to this puzzle really is to engage employers in a way that will make them more aware to what their bottom line is. And so I think through the work through workforce development and Ochsner, what we've done and what we've seen is that creating programs in the community that really help unemployed come into our organization, we've realized that the number one deterrent is childcare. And so we can't have a steady workforce of people without knowing that they're going to stay for a long period of time. And those workforce issues that affect those employees or people who really want to be employees and really want to be at work, childcare is the #1 deterrent for someone to leave. Someone who leaves our organization or do that. And so as an employer, we are ready to sort of support this huge childcare issue. We get it. We understand the numbers. We know that the bottom line is the turnover rates is costing millions and millions of dollars. So the issue is getting everyone in the agreeance that employers need some type of support and help and incentives that will actually help them to start doing this and doing it more. Other states have done it, and so our question is how do we get those supports so that employers can start to move that mountain to start moving in the right direction?
Melanie, do we have some of that, or is that something that is really lacking in our state?
No, it's really lacking in terms of incentives. The school readiness tax credits that we've mentioned, which are unique and wonderful, and something that other states have mimicked. So it's a great thing for our state that it's something. Nebraska just recently passed their version of the school readiness tax credits. I mean, it's very exciting, but those do not address the employer piece. Those tax credits are more for parents and for teachers and trying to deal with the quality issue of our child care, which are critical pieces. Yes. But they don't address what you're talking about, and that is a very interesting thing to explore. I don't know what other states are doing. It would be a very interesting thing to look at. Especially for an entrepreneur. I tell you one thing, because as we mentioned, we were it was our institute that did the Losing Ground report, and one thing that was striking to me was the difference in the effect that men and women were not different in the number of days of work they were missing. So that was surprising, but I guess what was not surprising, but the degree was surprising, was how much more women, it was affecting women's workforce participation. That's what I'm trying to say. So in other words, women were much more likely to go from full-time to part-time, much more likely to decline a promotion. And when you look at a healthcare industry, which of course is one of the biggest employers of our state, and you look at how women dominate nursing, I don't know about your nursing issues, but I hear rumors about huge challenging with nurses, and now half the med school classes are doctors.
It is.
I mean, are women. Half the doctors are women. If it's going to take 2 for every 1 position, how are we ever going to have the workforce we need for the future? So, yes, it's a huge issue. And
one piece on the business side, one of the school readiness tax credits do go towards employers. If you make a donation to a qualified daycare center, there is a credit for that. So if you have a good operator in your area that your employees like to use, there is a credit for that. That's one piece, and we probably need to market that more so folks understand it. The other piece is on the flexible savings accounts, the FSA. In my opinion, the cap's too low, and so for most parents, it helps, bring that line down a little bit, but it doesn't make it affordable. And so if you raise that cap to a certain extent, I think that would be some value there, and you might employees use it. We have 2 employees that use an FSA, and it helps contribute towards, but it's not really a game changer for them. And so I think that's one piece there.
Steve, I would just follow up on the school readiness tax credit. The one for businesses is the least valuable, and it's hardly used at all.
That's right.
So we would really need, if we wanted it,
there were like 200 statewide a couple years ago, so it's not many
very small. There's
a
very successful one that is where a business can donate to a resource and referral agency that helps childcare providers. But again, that's about quality. It's not the one that helps for an employer with their employees. We would need to work on that statute and really beef it up for it. It's not used because it really isn't that advantageous for the employers.
Right. Let me ask you real quick. We have some providers here in our audience as well, and we've had some earlier discussion with some of them. I know Judy had a very pointed question that I think she wanted to pose to someone here on the panel.
I think I need to change my question.
Well,
my question was, why should I take children on child care assistance? But I have a more serious question after listening to this, is that you've got the wait list that started July the 1st. I don't know of a single person that's gotten off the wait list. What do I tell my parents who are on the wait list? They have, as it is right now, they have no hope of getting off of it. And CCAP, is the whole system dead? If they don't have the money now, if they're broke now, and so they got things have to adjust, I don't know. I don't know what to tell parents who come by. I had a mother who came by the other day. She just got a job. She's a permanent substitute teacher at a school with 2 kids. And I warned her about the wait list, and she said, no, they didn't tell her that when she applied for it. I said, you better double check it. And sure enough, she double checked it. and she's not going to get it. There's no way she can go to work because she would be paying me as much money as she's going to make for her 2 kids. So this is supposed to be an incentive to get people to work. It doesn't work. It's not working.
Is there?
Well, it's absolutely not working because there's simply not enough resource there to actually do what it is that it's supposed to do. I will say this, I think it's better to know that we have a problem than to mask that we have a problem that we don't even know about. And years ago we had that. I mean, you'll know that we increased the subsidy size so that for every child who enrolls in CCAP, we actually are able to give more to the centers that provide them than we were a couple of years ago. See, when we weren't providing even, we were providing a much smaller amount of money, parents were just saying, I don't want anything to do with it, and nobody was actually even signing up. Now we've actually raised the amount of money, so we see the true number of parents who need the service and want to participate, and of course we have the problem that you've described. So we're finally being honest about it. We have a wait list. We have thousands of families that aren't being served. I think there is no good answer to the family, other than the state has not responded to the needs of the citizenry. It's time to step up.
Teresa, yeah.
Okay, as a parent, I'd rather a little bit of help than no help at all. You get what I'm saying? Like y'all raised it to where the child care providers get more money. And that's awesome. But on the same hand, you're only helping this little bit amount. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you would give a little bit less. I mean, some of our parents only pay $23 a month. And they have full-time jobs, and I'm paying $650 a month per child. I mean, if you would give just a little bit less to these parents and spread it a little bit more, like as a parent and as a worker, I would appreciate it a whole lot more than how it is now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a tough issue, you know, on a number of levels. First, we're talking about child care. We're not even talking about Head Start. We're not talking about public pre-kindergarten. We're not talking about private pre-kindergarten. So we're talking exclusively about child care. But second, I totally get the point, and it's something we wrestled with a lot. Do you give a lot of people a little bit of money, or do you give a smaller number of people a decent amount of money? What we found is this. First, we were losing centers. We were losing centers every single day who were just saying, I want nothing to do with this program because the amount of money that the government, the taxpayer, was able to give them wasn't enough to keep them afloat. Second, there was no hope of raising the wages of the teachers that actually work in those centers in the first place. And this was all at the time when the legislature was saying, we want a higher quality of classroom instruction. We're going to have to pay our teachers more. That means we're going to have to professionalize the child care teaching practice, and we're going to have to dedicate more funding to the centers. And in some respect, by not paying that money, we didn't have many parents who were coming to us and saying, yeah, I want just $1,000 or a couple $1,000s, when I know this is a $5,000 or $10,000 thing. But I'm the first to say, there's no way that a state policy, when you don't have enough resources, is going to perfectly parcel out the resources that you have. The answer that we need is a system that actually responds to the comprehensive needs of working parents to afford child care, and that goes for all parents.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the point you're making is an excellent one in that there's such a desperate need for parents. I would say the problem wasn't what the Department of Ed did. I actually applauded that because it was very unrealistic to raise standards with Act 3 and then pay the amount they were paying, where you're just setting everyone up for failure. There's no way to meet those standards at the amount of money that they were providing. On the other hand, what's happened is, the reason this is happening to you and to all of us is we have cut the funding for child care assistance by 70%. We've gone from serving 40,000 kids to 17,000. We're going to have to get down to 15,000 to be stabilized, which is why no one's going off the waiting list, while we've got 3,000 kids on the waiting list. It's that our public officials, not this one, but have not responded to the needs of the citizenry. And it takes us to demand that, we need to prioritize this. This is critical for our families and our children.
Well, let me ask you, Representative Carter, I mean, we hear a lot about a waiting list at the legislature, and it usually has to do with families with members with disabilities, and that's been really the focus of the legislature for a lot. I'm not sure that this waiting list is very well understood among legislators.
It's not, and for what reason, I don't know. I mean, when we have bills that come through, it's not like, and Cindy knows this, I mean, it's not like you can open this type of discussion up in a committee. Maybe what we need to do is have a hearing on this within a committee, and y'all can come and explain to people the problems. Because unless you have a bill that specifically attacks this problem, nobody comes down and lobbies So maybe the solution is for us to have a committee, and I'll be glad to bring this to both the House and the Senate and have a joint meeting on early childhood, to try to say, and y'all come and say to us, and you come and say, are you aware of the fact that you trimmed our budget by X amount? Now, education doesn't control the budget. Education, the Appropriations Committee, through a process, controls the dollars. And times are tough right now. You know, we got $1 billion cliff that we've got to solve pretty quickly, and I don't hear an awful lot of solutions for it, to be honest with you. There's a lot of talk, but we need to get some hardcore answers to our money situation in this state and get it stabilized, and then y'all need to come and say, let me tell you, it's stabilized, now take care of us. Because it's necessary for us to take care, because I've used this example all the time, Barry. I'm old. Y'all may not know now because they put that powder on my face. but my point in saying that is, and I was educated, I was lucky. I had an opportunity to get a good education. That's why I'm passionate about education, because if I wasn't educated, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now. I've had a great life. It's unbelievable. And it just upsets me for all of our youngsters that don't have a chance to have a great life and enjoy life, and it all starts with early childhood.
Candace, you also were from the kind of provider community. I thought maybe you had a question that was kind of a follow-up to some of what we've already heard on that.
Well, I'm a provider. I have a center in Avoyelles Parish. It's a very rural area. I have 35 on CCAP, and I have 11 on the waiting list. And I'm naive too, and I'm really caring, and I was giving parents a discount. They're like, okay, you're on the waiting list because you showed me your paper. I'll have you charge $70 for you when I actually am losing, because I charge $125. Well, I started talking to other people, and they're like, we don't do that. Well, what do you mean you don't do that? So I asked Miss Cindy. She said no one does that. So I'm literally the only one in the state doing that. But I feel bad because they tell us, like our R&R says, well, when they go retro back on the people, you just pay them back $2,000. Well, I'm a nonprofit center. I don't have $2,000 to pay back that parent. And I surely don't want to give them a $2,000 credit because, I mean, what if they leave and then I have to owe them $2,000 again? So, I mean, I really think that it's important that we need to put all of our money into the elderly, because the only way for them to age successfully is if you teach them correctly from birth to 4. And it blows my mind that we, as a whole cohort, as a whole Louisiana, we don't do that, and we cut those areas. And I'd be very, I would wing it, but I would definitely be part of a panel to help the legislation make that heard on my end, if I could.
Tara, let me ask you. You had a question along some of those lines as well, as a provider.
It's kind of awful, the subject, but I can add that I'm also a type 3 provider in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're quality. At one time, my center was about 75% CCAP children. Now I'm down to maybe 3%. The families that come in, they bring their forms in, and they're not really knowing that they're going to be on the list and maybe not called for a year or so. So it's very disappointing to watch them walk out of the door knowing that, I won't have a space for them. But they also can afford to pay out of pocket at my center. It costs $8,800 a year for a family to come to our facility. And I beg to differ, about some of the things that I've heard said recently about private center owners not putting into salaries for their staff, because we do that. We give our staff raises. We've met the bar. We've met every expectation of Act 3. We just need more resources to continue. So maybe we can continue to help some of the families that come through our door.
Anything, I mean, we're hearing a lot of the same issues kind of from different perspectives, the parent, the provider perspective, but it doesn't really feel like there's a lot on the horizon that's going to address this immediately, or am I missing something?
Well, but I think Representative Carter's point is right too, which is we've never had that do or die moment in the legislature,
Sure.
At least not in recent years, maybe not since LA4, the pre-K program, was put into place, where we actually had to take a vote on this kind of issue. And the issues that Melanie's talking about, where the legislature and the state have systematically reduced child care in order to fund other aspects of the budget. That fact too has never really been articulated for the legislature and for the public. So I would totally agree. I think that in terms of the stasis, I mean, you can feel the gridlock in the Capitol. But that doesn't mean that we're not at a point to start airing some of these issues a little bit more than we have in the past and give voice to some of these stories.
Well, I guess that is part of the question. Are we kind of at that moment? I mean, obviously, Stephen, your organization has gotten very more heavily involved. I mean, we've all pretty much been involved in that to a large degree, but even more so. What's your thought?
Well, I think there's definitely a growing awareness in the business community. There's no doubt about it, and we're going to try to amplify that more in this year preparing for the session. But I would say one piece on the funding side, I think we shouldn't overlook opportunities to just chip away at this problem. A large solution's great, but a chip away is not bad also. So I give one sense. We were talking, backstage, I guess you'd call it, a little bit about if there's savings on the 12th year. You have some, kids who are in 12th grade, they're not taking full credit hours in that senior year. They're kind of hanging out a little bit. Those extra dollars that aren't spent for education, why don't we put it back on the front end, go onto that early ed side and invest there? Same dollars, but we're using it for education through that whole pipeline. We're not using it on the back end. The other piece I would say is this kind of going to a point that Trevor brought up earlier on in some of the earlier interview is, with kids who are at a young age, perceived to be potentially on the spectrum or some other issues there's some things that community efforts are coming up. For instance, in Baton Rouge, there's a website that's been put forward by the Baton Rouge Area Foundation and the Wilson Foundation called laexceptionallives.org, laexceptionallives.org. And what that does is it's a one-stop shop database for parents where you can go and you can find all the services in that region that you can go get your kid assessed and maybe find some services. The reason why this could chip away here is if you go to a center like the Emerge Center here in Baton Rouge, which provides high-quality ABA therapy for kids of that age, parents can qualify for Medicaid and other assistance programs which don't come through the traditional early ed lens, but again, that's a resource that can go to provide some of that care we're looking for.
And actually, Jan Ross with the Wilson Foundation is here. Is there anything you'd like to add to what Stephen was talking about on that issue?
In 2015, the Wilson Foundation, along with Baton Rouge Area Foundation, partnered to create a gaps analysis of resources that are available for autism. One of the recommendations out of the report that was created from our gaps analysis was to build awareness of the red flags or signs of autism. And the idea of building the awareness can lead to earlier diagnosis of the child. Because it is recognized that the earlier a child receives a diagnosis as well as treatment, the better chances of that child having a productive life, thus reducing the cost of the care of that child throughout his life. So my question today is, when it comes to quality of child care, there has been the implementation of a quality rating system. At what level of the rating system are the workers of the child care centers required to have this type of education on the signs of a disability, whether it be autism-related disabilities or other disabilities?
Yeah, just to take a big step back, I think one important kind of framework for thinking through all this is that while early childhood education and care is an important thing, quality early childhood care and education is really the important thing. And there's plenty of research to show that a high quality experience achieves a lot of what we're talking about today, but a low quality experience actually achieves very little of what we're talking about today. And that's why you do see some inconsistent results in the research on early childhood care and education. So we have a quality agenda in Louisiana, which gets a little bit to some of Teresa and Candace and Tara's questions, which are what are the things that have been done around quality? Well, teachers in child care used to be just required to be 18 years old. We've increased that so that now every teacher has to have a child care development associate's degree. That's a serious step up in terms of the requirements. Unfortunately, tax credits are helping us fund some of that. So we're trying to narrow that gap. Teachers do get training in diagnostic work as part of that experience, and then we have a comprehensive rating system that our center directors, as Judy and others will note, is based on the class system from the University of Virginia. That too has an element regarding assessment within it. But I will tell you that of all of the domains of that system, we're doing great at socio-emotional environments and creating a supportive experience for students. We're doing great at creating an organized setting. Our teachers are fantastic at creating an environment that's conducive to kids' emotional development. But we're struggling, as is every state in the country, with, at scale, across tens of thousands of kids, how do you help nurture them cognitively? How do you model language? How do you ask questions? And when you really look at the brain science, it's those activities that too many of our young people are missing at home. We've got to make sure we're providing it in their child care centers, Head Starts, and pre-Ks.
Jeannie, you're with the Louisiana Budget Project, and I think moving on, you had a question for perhaps Stephen?
So we've heard that the state has reduced its investment in the child care assistance program by 70% over the last 10 years, which has led to this waiting list that doesn't seem to be moving. And we've also heard that LABI and its members are becoming increasingly aware of how important early care and education is to a stable workforce. And so I'm wondering, is LABI and its membership planning to use its considerable influence to advocate for more funding for the child care assistance program in the upcoming legislative session? And if so, what might that look like? And if not, what are some of the alternatives, which you've touched on a couple that you're working on?
Yeah, first of all, I love this reference to the influence. I wish it was as good as it is. But, it'd be nice if we could snap the fingers. I think on a couple fronts. One, I do think the budget has to be unlocked to where it is right now, because as priorities shift, 10 years from now, this was not a priority for the state. Now it is. But everything's so locked up that government spending can't, go with where public demand is. That's one piece. I think the second piece is we've got to think outside the box on this. I think we're fooling ourselves if we say we can just go and just throw another tax, another revenue stream, because that's the same excuse you have for why LSU can't be great, why we can't have a bridge. Everything has that same answer. And I'll give you an example. The state of Arizona. They have gone and they basically said, okay, how much are we giving through the state funding formula every single year for K-12 kids for parents who are poor? And if you want to take those dollars and use them separately, maybe it's for a private school, maybe it's to mix daycare and with tutoring and with another, curriculum. Give poor parents, or at least low-income parents, the choice they have. I think we should adopt something like that here and start with either special needs or early education. For instance, if you're a parent who's low income, and you know that MFP formula is going to pick you up in first grade or kindergarten, if that parent's saying, you know what, the school I want to go to, I want to take it as a voucher, go to a private school and I'm going to cost the state less, let me capture some of that savings and start on the bottom side. I think that's an outside the box approach where we need to consider, because what that does is that gives low income parents the same power of mobility that a middle class and an upper income parent has. And there's no reason why they shouldn't have the same mobility. And then on the state side, the state's spending the same amount of dollars, if not less, for doing so. And I know that's complicated. I know it's easier to just say, no, let's just throw a tax on it. What I'm saying is that with a budget that grows every year, yet we still can't fund priorities, I think it's going to take a mixture of unlocking funds in these previous dedications and new outside-the-box ideas. And I think maybe Arizona paved the way for us to try something like that.
Just to kind of wrap up the discussion here really quickly, it seems like we're hearing a couple of things. Number one, big challenges here on the one hand, but also really opportunity, because there's discussion and there's some, at least some critical mass that seems to be forming around this issue that we hadn't had any before, or to this level. So just some final thoughts from each of you real quickly. Where do we stand? Do we look like we're in a better position? Do we think we're going to make some progress on this in the at least foreseeable future? John?
Well, first, I think it's easy when you hear really heartbreaking stories like Teresa is talking about, and like Tara was talking about, some of the people who are trying to enroll in her center, and Candace as well. Those are stories we never want to hear, and we've got to do something about it. The other thing I would say, though, is that the centers that are represented here, the experiences so many children are having is so great relative to where we were instructionally in the classroom just 5 years ago. Our child care centers, our pre-Ks, our Head Starts have stepped up to make unprecedented changes in the experiences their children, their teachers, and their families are having. That's a selling point. It's not just we've got such a long waiting list, it's these places have momentum. You can make great change at great scale for the kids who need it most. And if that's not inspiring enough to the legislature, I don't know what will be.
Stephen?
I would say, I guess the main thing is if you're a parent, you have to, get educated what is the option in your area. We mentioned that there may be services being provided that you could qualify through other streams, not on the education front. And then on the private sector business side, I think, you're going to hear us a lot talking to our members a lot more about, kind of their civic responsibility and why being a family-friendly employer is the best way to attract high-quality talent and hopefully encourage them to invest more in these types of options.
Melanie?
Well, as someone who has worked in this space for a very long time, I agree with everything that's been said, and the fact that we're having this discussion today is so exciting from the perspective of the workforce, because I think it's critical to understand that this is a two-generation opportunity where by investing in this, you're helping parents be able to work and children be able to be successful in school by starting kindergarten on grade level. But having said that, being the cynic that I am, for 10 years we've been saying, we don't have money now, we need to wait, and we've been cutting, and we've been cutting, and we've been cutting. And at some point, we need to put our money where our mouth is. If we care about this as a state, at the end of the day, our budget is our policy document. It's our priority document. We can say we care about this, but if we don't fund it, then we don't get to say that. And so I say, I hope our state, because I love our state so much, and I think we want to do the right thing for ourselves. There's no better investment than our young children, and I hope we will finally prioritize what we say we do care about.
And Representative Carter, it sounds like you have a lot of messages to bring to the legislature.
Do we have a second hour of this? Well, let me just say this. Stephen hit the nail on the head when he said two things. One is we only have $3 billion out of $30 billion that we as a legislature can fool with, because everything else is dedicated. I'm for a constitutional convention where we can undedicate all this stuff and start anew. Second thing is, he was right, there are a number of states other than just Arizona that have an ESA account. In other words, your dollars, they're your dollars. They're not my dollars as a legislator, they're your dollars. I just as soon give you your dollars that you're putting into the state for education and let you do with it what you want to. I know Nevada did it, I know Arizona's done it, I know a number of other states have. But let me caution you, change is tough. It is really tough. People like to stay in their comfort zone, and they don't know what to expect when you get out of that comfort zone. So my third thing is, therefore we need your help to change that. I will commit to having an education meeting, a joint education committee meeting, for y'all to come, tell me your story. Tell it to the people who make policy, because I don't think it's out there like it should be. So if you're willing to come to the legislature and give your story, I'm willing to ask them to have a joint education committee, and I believe we'll have one, but y'all have got to show up.
Well, thanks very much to all of you for your expertise and your insights, and we really do appreciate it. We've run out of time for our question and answer segment, but we'd like to thank our panelists, Superintendent White, Mr. Waguespack, Ms. Bronfman, and Representative Carter for their insights on this month's topic. When we come back, we'll have a few closing comments. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Louisiana Public Square. We encourage you to visit the program website at lpb.org/public square. You can find resources like a link to the Louisiana School Finder tool and the Losing Ground statewide workforce study. Also, you can comment on tonight's show, and we'd love to hear from you. Sexual harassment charges dominated the headlines at the end of 2017, and not just in Hollywood. Governor John Bel Edwards' deputy chief of staff resigned due to allegations, as did celebrity chef John Besh. How widespread is the problem in our state, and what's the remedy? Louisiana Public Square explores that issue next month on Drawing the Line: Sexual Harassment in Louisiana. Thanks for watching tonight, and have a good evening.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.